This is a 1-minute summary of a 30-minute video, because I don't know if anybody will ever watch a 30-minute video, but it's for anyone who has a new idea and wants to advance it to through the U.S. Department of Defense for funding, which I did. I've tried for years to do that. So here's what happened to me. A way to advance an idea is through something called a broad agency announcement. I tried to do this for years, never successful. I used to work with, but not for, Naval Research Laboratory. Wonderful people, fantastic, and an insider there pointed me in the right direction. I submitted a white paper, a technical white paper. It was accepted. I was invited to Washington twice to talk about the technology of it. They were interested in something called a reacquisition estimator, and also the intercept corridor, very interested in that, for cognitive control of off-board decoys for ship defense against missile attack. Very topical. They'd never heard of anything like this before. Very excited. By the time I got home from that second meeting, I had a request to prepare price and technical proposals for them, and so I did. Then there was a 7 months waiting period, after which time a contracts person, not a technical person, a contracts person, came to the belief that the work I was proposing had already been done. It hadn't. That is false, and disqualified the proposal. The scientific person said, my contact there said, don't worry, we want to work with you. I'll find another way. Just wait. So I did wait. 2.5 months, 2 months later, I find from this person that, no, we're not pursuing that. And I ended up with absolutely nothing. 2.5 years later, the cover story in Journal of Electronic Defense is SEWIP Block III, which is a multi-billion-dollar program to upgrade the U.S.'s flagship jammer, the Slick 32. And there in that magazine is described exactly what I told the team that, according to the article I see, did prepare create the technology, the capability, the new capability, Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory under Naval Research Laboratory. So I wrote a letter to them saying what their legal department, what's going on here, a nicely worded one, and essentially was shut down. So I can tell you, you have no recourse. You can't fight U.S. DoD. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Make up your own mind. But based on the information that I have, it looks to me like this was misappropriated from me and used in a major U.S. program. Now the details matter, so that's what the rest of the video, the long form video is. Don't be me, look at the mistakes I made and don't make those mistakes. And best of luck to you. Okay, this is a video about how my experience in trying to do business with the U.S. Department of Defense through their broad agency announcement vehicle. And I think this might be helpful to other people, other small companies, which are also contemplating the same thing. Now, this is my cheat sheet for this video, so you'll see me looking down at that from time to time, I expect. But, okay, to get started, if you have a new idea for new technology, and you want to engage the U.S. Department of Defense to fund this, to see if it might go somewhere, then the vehicle to do that is called a Broad Agency Announcement, a BAA. And there are a bunch of BAAs, I understand, and they're renewed every year, and the websites describe the kind of technology that a particular agency is interested in finding and developing. And the ones that interest me are naval electronic warfare ones from Office of Naval Research or Naval Research Laboratory. And at the outset, let me say I've done work with the people at NRL over decades, and they are solid. I mean, just wonderful place to work and smart, professional, really exciting to work there. I've never worked for them. My work has always been as a Canadian contractor, paid ultimately by the Canadian Department of National Defense, but I work with them down there. So over the years I have tried to break into working directly with them or for them and through the broad agency announcement vehicle, and that has never worked. How many submissions have I made? Probably, I think I counted 16 different submissions over many years, and none of them were successful. They give you a reply after you submit a white paper, a technical white paper, which is how it goes. But none of the reasons have ever been very satisfactory or clear. And I would say the low point was I submitted one for an intelligent jog detection for the Office of Naval Research, and ONR, and the reviewer wrote back, said, well, jog detection is a discredited technology. Well, but you didn't look at what I wrote clearly. So these people are interested in new technology, just nothing they can't think up themselves. So it's been disappointing all the way along. So here we are now. This is what happened to me, and I think it might be helpful to somebody else in my similar situation. So it's 2015, fall of 2015, and I'm the trials director in the Naval Research Laboratory. We're doing tests at CTS, Central Target Simulator. And one of the guys during our cool down session said, hey, there's a guy from the Pentagon here. So I said, well, you know, I'm the trials director, and from my point of view, although somebody else is paying, it's my lab. And if there's somebody comes in, I want to know who it is and within reason why they're there, but I want to know what's happening in my lab. So I don't see this person. Oh, he's standing behind that column over there. It's a small control room. And there, oh, it's my friend Richard. So I hadn't seen him in many years. He's a good guy. So we had a nice chat. Yeah, nice to catch up a bit. And it can resume testing. So after all the testing was done, now it's, must have been January or so, 2016. I've got to find work. So I thought I sent a message to my friend and said, can you help me, you know, break into a contract with, let's say, NRL? And he said, yeah, it's through the broad agency announcement thing. He gave some advice. And here's what he told me how it works. Normally, you have to find, if you've got a good idea, you need to find a scientist who works, an employee, who's interested in what you're doing. And that's your champion. And then you submit a white paper, which is a technical description of your new idea. This is what it says on the BAA website. Can only be 4 pages long, and they give you the instructions on how to do this. I mean, there's like 3 sentences. You've got space for your idea, but the rest of it is what program you're connecting to and how it's applicable and all kinds of stuff like that. So he said, yes, I think you need to send a white paper to this particular person at NRL. So where that person is working on things that, from what you've described, would be interested in what you're doing. So, okay, so I did. So this time I don't forget the 4 pages. I wrote an 85-page, in the blind, technical proposal about what I believe is a universal countermeasure, which will probably work against most or all earlier and present day missiles. That's 2015. And based on what I know. And so I sent that off. And that kicked around a little bit and it finally found its way to the person who was supposed to read it. And yes, they were interested. So would I fly down to Washington? We can't pay for that. I said, oh, yeah, I understand. Could I fly down to Washington and talk to some of their technical people about something called a reacquisition estimator? So that's initially what got their interest. Among all this stuff wasn't even the universal countermeasure. So a reacquisition estimator is a software application that lives inside a jammer on a ship, and it watches the received power from a missile as it's attacking the ship. And if you are successful in deceiving the missile, sending a seeker antenna pointing in the wrong direction, then if the seeker reacquires the ship, the antenna beam points back onto the ship. It causes a very high upgoing positive power spike, and that's a signature of reacquisition. So they wanted a piece of software, a way, a technology to do that, and not be fooled by multipath, which is causing the signal to go up and down all the time anyway. So yeah, okay, so I flew down there, I got a hotel room, flights, all that stuff, went down and talked to them, and that was, I don't know, May 2016. And so we met for, it was supposed to be like an hour and a half. It was over a 3-hour meeting. It was about 9 people coming in and out. It was big for what it was, number of people. And I remember one of the things I took some props with me, which I have right here. I showed them the Engage user guide. It's a big, heavy book, and there's a user interface companion volume that goes with that. And I also wanted to talk to them about the Invicta Adaptive Cognitive Controller. That's another big book. So I took on, they were impressed with these things. And I explained, I said, okay, that's the milk, that's the cow, and that's the milk. So that's the connection between all these things. They were interested in those things, but they were especially interested in something I called the intercept corridor, which I made a few videos about. So the head guy was saying, well, you know, our project has to do with coordination of hard kill and soft kill, and he gave it a name which I don't recall, but I have it written down. And you know, why would we, you know, how does this thing work? And I said, well, the set of mathematical equations that describe the conditions under which the missile has an unrecoverable heading error, so it's not a danger to the threat ship anymore. It's still flying, but it can't turn hard enough to hit you. So, well, why would I need that? You know, if I've got 15 platforms, why would I need that? And I said, by platforms, do you mean ships or missiles? He said, missiles. I said, well, if you've got 15 missiles in the air at once, you definitely need this because it tells you which of those 15 are still a threat to you. You don't want to be shooting your Gatling guns or your anti-missile missiles at missiles that can't hit you. So you need to classify these things. Also prioritize them. The ones that's closest and is still a threat, that's the one to go after. So they really bought into that. Really liked it a lot. So the head guy did, and everybody else too, I think. So, okay, we're interested in that, and the reacquisition estimator. So, and they thumbed through the Engage books and so forth, and they were very interested in those. So that was a successful meeting, and I went home. Okay, a couple of months later, they said, could you come back and talk to our technical team? And I said, yeah, sure. No, we can't pay you for that. They have no way. I understand. It's totally understandable. They have no way, no contractual mechanism to pay for somebody, a contractor, to fly down and show them stuff. So no problem, I can do that. So for the second time, I flew down. Now, I didn't know who is going to be at this meeting, but all the same, I went. There are two things, advice from my mother, the smartest person I ever met, about meetings. Never participate in a meeting unless you know two things first. Who's going to be there, attendees, and the agenda. You can attend, but don't participate. And I broke both of those rules. I didn't know who was going to be there, and I didn't know what the agenda was. So anyway, we're in Crystal City, and so I showed up half an hour early. And you know how sometimes people, for government meetings at least, they'll show up like if it's at 9 o'clock, they show up at 1 minute to 9 or 2 minutes after 9 or whatever. So I was there plenty early, and I went in at 25 to 9 to set up the audio video stuff. So I want that to work, click, 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 no dead space. I want it to move quickly. So they're in person, I signed me in, and I go into I open the door to the meeting room, and it's not empty, it's full of people. It's chock-a-block full of people. Papers everywhere. We're not ready for you yet. It's okay, I'll wait in the hallway. So I went in at about 5 to 9 or something and set everything up. And so there were 21 people in this meeting. They were from MIT Lincoln Labs, Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, SPAWAR out of San Diego, Office Naval Research Laboratory, RAND Corporation, and one other person whose affiliation was never explained to me and who was added to this meeting at 10 to 6 the night before. When I said yes, I received an email from the organizer saying, hey, I've got this guy, he's really good, he's a contractor, but you can trust him, I'm trying to hook the two of you up because you've got technology I know he can use, or I think he can use, and so is it okay if we add him? And he's good people, and you don't get a contract by saying no. So I said, yeah, okay, you're vouching for him, all right, bring him in. So I don't know who that person was, I do now. But anyway, so prior to the meeting, I had received a bunch of questions from them to focus the meeting. And the subject of this meeting is technical review from all these really smart people. It's very much like Mr. Smith goes to Washington type situation, and I'm Mr. Smith. So they sent me a bunch of questions, and one of the questions was, I think, just designed to shut me up or shut me down or whatever, because one of the key parts of the reacquisition estimator is overwater propagation. And when we're trying to tell if the seeker has reacquired us or not, the ship, well, multipath makes the signal scintillate up and down. The amplitude changes, so we don't want to confuse multipath with reacquisition, or have multipath destroy an indication of reacquisition. So the question, one of the questions was, what evidence do you have? What proof do you have, evidence do you have that the propagation model you're using is valid? That seemed to me to be a bit of a trap or a trick, because I don't have an airplane, and I don't have a missile seeker, and I don't have a ship. So any propagation measurements that I would have, real world propagation measurements, would not belong to me, and they would almost certainly be classified because it would have been done under a government program. So I don't have any of that data. But the answer to the question, I scratched my chin for a little while, and I came to the conclusion that actually I have quite a lot of evidence that I think the propagation model is valid, because I spent some time working on counter-IED ECM work, and I did propagation tests over a flat asphalt surface. The RCMP Royal Canadian Mounted Police have a test range at the east end of Ottawa, and I spent a lot of time out there validating a propagation model. And it's the same propagation model as is used in Engage. So in the meeting, I presented this. I said, well, you guys decide yourselves. I'll show you what I found, and you tell me if you think the propagation model is valid. And so I've made some videos about this, and they were impressed. And the guy from Spaywar said, one of the guys from Spaywar said, well, where'd that model come from? And he said, well, I wrote it, but the equations are online, and it used to be called EREPS, but I think it's called AREPS now, and I don't think it came from NOAA, but I can't remember where it came from exactly. And the Spaywar guy says, that's our model. So I said, well, I guess you won't have a problem with the model, because there's something fundamentally right about this model. So we got past that. And then the meeting drifted into the intercept corridor, and so the head guy said, well, can you explain this? And they're watching, and they get it, that all these people from MIT and JHAPL and everybody, they're smart. They get it right away. And here's the head guy saying, well, I'm an operator, and this thing speaks to me, and this thing does in seconds what hours of looking at spreadsheets and graphs doesn't do. This thing has a potential to fast track this whole project. And I said, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's very intuitive. And I was playing a video on a loop, which I'm going to include in this video. I'll show you what I showed then. This video shows how to cause long-range missile defeat at or near the theoretical maximum soft kill range. This is done by using the intercept corridor developed by Sky Industries for closed-loop control of an unmanned surface vehicle, also called a USV. The maximum soft kill range for a high subsonic 3G missile is about 6 kilometers. That's the turn diameter of a 300 meter per second missile pulling 3Gs. Now this animation shows an offboard decoy which becomes active, causing the seeker track point to move from the ship to the decoy. And now, key point, in order for the missile to hit the ship, it must stay inside the corridor formed by the magenta colored lines, that's the intercept corridor, shown on the sea surface. The corridor is defined so that the missile cannot come, in this case, any closer than 100 meters from the ship, and that's shown as a no-fly circle centered on the ship. So the decoy moves away from the ship at a 45-degree heading, and soft kill occurs when the missile's max G whisker, the right side one looking out of the missile, passes outside the no-fly protection circle centered on the ship. And simultaneously, exactly when that happens, if you look, you see the missile crosses the magenta-colored intercept corridor at the same time. So those two things are simultaneous, and that's missile defeat. Now, interestingly, soft kill occurs when the missile, in this example, when the missile is about 5 kilometers from the ship. And when soft kill happens, by the way, the missile is no longer a threat to the ship because it can't turn hard enough to hit the ship. Now compare this with the soft kill range that's achievable for a stationary decoy placed, let's say, 500 meters from the ship. Now this clip shows the Engage soft kill application, and soft kill occurs when the missile's hard right turn or hard left turn contour, either one, is tangent to the protection circle around the ship. And to illustrate the effect, irrespective of decoy position, this animation shows the decoy rotating around a ship at a 500 meter radius.
And the video shows progressively closer missile ranges. And soft kill, we see from watching this and playing a little bit, that soft kill cannot happen under these circumstances farther than about, when the missile is about any farther than 1.4 kilometers from the ship, 400 or 500 meter decoy range. And that's about a third of the soft kill range achievable with an adaptively controlled USV. So in conclusion, compared with a stationary decoy, the missile can be defeated at a much longer range by a USV whose path is adaptively controlled to cause missile soft kill to happen as soon as possible. And this means sending the USV uprange toward the missile as fast as possible and then gradually introducing a heading error. Now imagine that the USV and the ship are talking to each other. They're both observing the missile. So not only do we get a soft kill to happen, but also because of cooperation between the ship and the decoy, we can tell, the ship can tell, and the decoy can tell that it's working. The missile is following the decoy.
And it's a way to get soft kill to happen at very long range by properly controlling a decoy based on the intercept corridor. And it was playing on a loop, and I'll never forget, he's watching the video. He's watching the video, but he's pointing at me and he's going, "I'm going to steal that from you." And I laughed. I thought he was kidding. Well, what else? And but anyway, the meeting ended very well, and strong handshakes. I can't get my hand back, and I said, "My job is to get you promoted," and he said, "My job is to get you to Oregon and work with our fast track people," I forget who they were. And okay, great. So by the time I got home, I had an email from my NRL contract saying, we would like a proposal that includes 2 copies of Engage, one for the East Coast, one for the West Coast. We want the reacquisition to propose to include the reacquisition estimator and the intercept corridor, and like maybe in a DLL implementation, and we would like your time also, but we don't have any way of buying your time. We don't do timesheets. So the one mechanism to do that is to offer in the proposal a fixed firm contract, which includes, let's say, 160 hours of labor hours to do whatever. I'll sweep the floors with a toothbrush if you want me to, but if you don't want anything done, then I keep the money. That's how a fixed firm contract works. So, okay, no problem, very exciting. And within a few days, I had an email from their contracts people saying we need technical and price proposals from you. And so I spent 2 months putting all that together, at least 2 months, putting all that together. And now during this, and I passed it through the 4 smartest people that I know, and all thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Yep, that looks good, that looks good. So I submitted on the 2nd of January, must have been 2017. And now I have to wait, because during the contract the proposal evaluation phase, the person who's submitting the work, the proposal, cannot have any conversation with the technical people that formerly I was dealing with. And so that's normal, that's understandable. So I got, over the next several months, I got several questions. Like one of them was, can we buy the intercept corridor? Because we want to share that with our contractors. We don't want to have any encumbrance. I said, hey, Sky Industries it's not a museum, it's a store, and everything is for sale. We can work it out. So, okay, that's fine. Now, so now it's taking a while, but it's the end of July. We're at the end of July now, so it might actually be, so many years exactly to the day today that this happened. So I got an email from I think was a fairly minor contractual functionary person, and I'm not using any names here because it doesn't really add to the story. But anyway, that person said, well, what's the 160 hours for? I said, well, whatever it is that you want done. If you don't want anything done, then it's for nothing. So whatever was said behind the scenes, or he read, or I don't know, but that person came to the conclusion that the project was done, that I had already done the reacquisition estimator, and the BAA is not a clearinghouse for already done projects, it's for projects that are starting now. I don't understand that, because Now, that wasn't the case, but I understand that for a fixed firm contract. What difference does it make when you did the work? It's like, here it is. Do you want to buy it at this fixed price or not? So, but that was not the case. And it was instantly canceled. The contract was, the possibility of a contract was instantly canceled. So I'm on the phone to my NRL contact, and that person is saying, well, don't worry, we still want to do work. We still want to work with you. And we'll find another way. But the BAA proposal, that is dead. They tried to argue, said, well, the guy has already done some work on this. I did enough of the work to show them, to satisfy myself that I could do the reacquisition estimate. I don't have all the moves worked out, but I had given them a presentation about, how this will probably work in the end. So I'm at my risk. I'd done some work that, so it's not finished, but enough of it that we know it's possible. I'm satisfied it's possible. I can do it for this amount of money. Now I need to insert a really important part here because I made a big mistake at this point in the story. When the scientific authority said to me, don't worry, we'll find another contracting path because the BAA is dead. And by the way, they've argued, I was told hard and vociferously for this not to happen against our own contracting person. What I should have said at this point was, okay, excellent, you'll find another path, I look forward to that. But in parallel with that, and with your concurrence, I want to open a grievance against your contracting people for misapplication of their own rules, or lack of due diligence, or whatever words work best. But we'll work it out, we'll figure it out. But I didn't do that. Instead, I waited. Huge mistake. Don't make that mistake. Because if the other path doesn't work out, you have nothing. Anyway, I was told that the BAA avenue was completely closed, but they're going to find a different way. Just wait. So, okay, so I'll wait. So a couple months later, I called and said, well, what's happening with the contract here? What are your thoughts? And my contact said, oh, didn't you get a call from the project leader? And I said, no, I haven't heard from him at all since we saw each other in whatever it was, last meeting, last fall. And she said, oh, we're not pursuing that. We're in delivery now. What? You what? So that's it. So all that I had, all the proposal preparation, and what I had been working on in anticipation of a contract was the full documentation, video documentation, instruction sets for Engage. I'd spent 9 months working on that. I figured I needed to do it anyway, but so all that work in anticipation that the US DoD is going to use my software for, they were asking for my help to vet their programs, to vet their algorithms, and anyway, all gone, all completely gone. So anyway, what can I do? You can't fight City Hall. So now let's flash forward to, I think it was January 2020. So it's 2.5 years later, and I have a subscription to Journal of Electronic, I think it's called Domination, but it's really Journal of Electronic Defense, JED. And the cover story in JED is SEWIP Block III, Surface EW Improvement Program. It's the upgrade to this SLQ-32, the flagship jammer for the U.S. naval warships. And it was a 4-page spread. It's very dry reading, but I better read this. So at the bottom right corner of the 3rd page is a new capability, a little few paragraphs about a new capability that the U.S. Navy is instituting. That is run by NRL, but it is executed by Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory. And it is a way to control offboard decoys using soft kill definition. So, okay, that's exactly what I talked to those people about. And I went around that room and I said, has anybody heard of this before? Meaning the intercept quarter. Nope, all the way around. And I said to the head guy, Scott, I said, you don't have a license for this. That I'm here for only one reason, and it's money. And that means I'm here to get a contract. So you don't have a license for this. Yeah. And then we finished our meeting, after almost 3 hours, about 3 hours, and strong handshakes, and everything was positive. So now I'm reading about exactly what I described to those people on the, whatever it was, the 16th of September 2016, and 2.5 years later, or 17, whatever it was, 16. And 2.5 years later, I'm reading about it in JED. So I wrote a politely worded letter to the head guy, basically saying, what's going on? Look what I read here. You told me this appears to be your project. And so I'm reading about my technology being used in SEWIP Block III. And I got a reply from a legal person, I think it was a junior person. Well, he said, you didn't actually have a non-disclosure agreement in place signed when the meeting took place. However, he said, for that kind of a meeting, you effectively did have an NDA, because of BAA, it says your technology that you divulge in the white paper will not be shared with other contractors. It will only be used, as I recall, it'll only be used for evaluating your proposal for government purposes only, and the purpose is to evaluate your proposal. So that's it. But this is not for evaluation of my proposal. I never got a contract. So, but he said, I will undertake an investigation with the technical and contracts people, and I'll get back to you. Okay, great. So several months go by, I don't hear anything. I read another letter saying, I'd like to follow up on this and tell me what your results of your findings were, your investigation were. And then I got a much stronger letter, I think written from a more senior person, and saying, we take umbrage with the allegation that we misappropriate subcontractor or foreign contractor intellectual property, and this project started years before we met you, and no. And if you have an objection, then you have to, you can appeal through this government portal, and you have to know who stole it, what time of day they stole it, what operating program it's being used, and a laundry list of things. It's just impossible to answer, which he knows is impossible for me to answer. They don't have access to that kind of information. I might have if they got the results of the investigation the first guy said he was going to do, but they didn't do that. So I wrote back and I said, well, it doesn't matter when a program starts. What matters is when the problem was solved. So you can spin your wheels for 3 or 4 years until somebody comes along and switches on the light switch and says, here's how you do it, and then you go forward. So what I would like to see is an investigation that establishes the chain of evidence for where did you get this technology. If you invented it yourself, no harm, no foul. But from what I can tell, these are the people who I was speaking to are the ones that actually implemented this, and it's being written up in JED twice. And there's another article appeared in Journal of Electronic Defense that not only does it describe in more detail how this thing works for a closed loop adaptive or cognitive control of decoy position, but they're using my words to describe it, which is quite flattering, I suppose, because I think I described it very well. But anyway, the point is, the cautionary part here is, and that was the end of that. I asked for the promised investigation, and it just went to radio silence. So I was finished. As soon as I walked into that, I was done like dinner. I was not going to go and get anything, I think, by the time, as soon as I went into that second meeting. Because here we are, I'm surrounded by a bunch of brainiacs, really smart people. And I said to my NRL contact, my number one concern about this meeting is that I'm not that smart and somebody can reverse engineer what I've done. And that's my biggest concern. And I was reassured, no, you didn't, you weren't there for after you left. And the chairman said, I don't want to hear anybody reverse engineering this guy's tech. But that's what happened. I think that's what happened. And that's what it looks like it happened. I have been provided with no additional information, nor will I get any.
You know, I find this galling even now, and this is the final letter I received from their legal department. Look at the top. Our letter explains that the DON, Department of Navy contractors were working on certain electronic warfare programs long before the September 6, 2017 meeting. That doesn't matter. No doubt they were. The question is, where did the information come from that's reported in Journal of Electronic Defense? What's the pedigree of that? That was the question I asked. And they said, well, we've been working on this for a long time. It doesn't matter how long you've been working on it. It matters what you got done. It matters where the solution came from. And the next part, even more galling. But even if I asked for transparency, but even if national security concerns did not prevent us from sharing that information, we would decline to do so. There's nothing classified here. The briefing I had with them was unclassified. I'm talking about unclassified information. But this is the obstruction and obfuscation that you may find if you end up in my position. I mean, after misappropriation, you have no recourse. They just say that's classified and no further conversation, and there's no thinking going on either, in my opinion.
So I realized when I showed them the intercept quarter, the wheels really were turning fast. I realized that these people are smart enough to reverse engineer this. And one of the first things they'll figure out is you can use it to control decoys. So I judged in that moment, I have to tell them that you can use this for decoys. So I did. Under the terms of reference of our meeting, safe terms of reference, that this is just for evaluation purposes. I said, this is what it can be used for. And because if I don't do that, then they could legitimately say, well, we figured this out ourselves. So anyway, all that to say, if you get yourself into a position where it's better not to tell, I guess it's better not to tell anything. The trouble is, speaking to anybody out there who wants to engage a large corporation or a government or a security agency with a new idea, you have to socialize your technology or you're not going to get anywhere. You have to make it known what you're doing. And the credibility comes from the technical sum of the technical revelation. The problem is the threshold for getting credibility may be lower than or higher than the threshold for reverse engineering. And now we're on the honor system. But in my case, it really didn't work at all. So I don't have much more to say about that. Really huge disappointment for me. So I give up. I am not submitting any more BAA proposals. 17 is the magic number or whatever the number was. It's just hopeless. I don't know if it's hopeless, but I hope this is helpful to somebody out there who's in my position, and I wish you very best of luck. Don't give up.